Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Decisions webinar. Today is Monday, the 17th of April. My name is Josh Lax, and I am a member of the professional services team here at Decisions. And I'm willing to answer some questions, talk about the product, do kind of whatever you would like me to do. I see we have one hand raised. Bradley, is that you?
Hey, Josh.
Hey.
So I have a scenario where a regular named user who logs in, they start a workflow, and then they get a task or a form they need to complete. They complete that form, and the next step in the workflow is to have a non-named user fill out a form. So I'm doing that through a named session. At least that's my plan.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Cool.
Uh, the email, I don't want to send the standard decisions email, so I want to have a send email step.
Mm-hmm.
And in that send email step, describe what's happening, but then give them the link to the form that they need to fill out. Just curious how I go about creating that name session URL to get them to the form. How I've done it previously is where the name session, that person actually starts the workflow. So I know how to go and get the link and just put it in a QR code or a hyperlink, whatever. But in this case, I need to kind of craft it on the fly and put it in an email. Not sure.
There's a couple ways you can do it. Just decisions every time we make an assignment, we make a URL for that assignment. And so we can use a start run flow to essentially send that email off and put whatever you want to into the assignment to send it off. So, we can do that kind of, we can go that kind of route. What I would recommend is finding something a little bit more secure. I had a customer one time who wanted to do the same thing. They didn't want their user to have an account, but they did want them to have an assignment. That opened up a little bit of a security issue with their audit team. And they basically were like, can't do this until you fix it, right? Because we don't want like some open link out there that anyone can kind of have access to,
right?
And click on it and do it. What I would recommend is basically making an assignment and figuring out how to use the assignment URL with that for that exact assignment. So they don't have access to anything else. An assignment can be set up to be assigned to an external user. And that would basically, like, how you would pick the person that you wanted to be assigned to and for the assignment?
Yep.
You can pick external user for that.
Okay.
And then you can generate the link inside of the start flow that would come with the assignment. URL. Here, I'll pull up my local host and we can talk through it really quick. Right, pulling it up now. Okay, here's my local host. Now, I am a couple versions behind on my local host, just to make sure you're aware. But can you see my screen?
I can.
With the decisions environment? Okay, cool. Yep. So we'll go to one of these dashboards I've made. Again, this is just my my local host, so don't judge me too hard. But this would be it if I go to form. Switch it to assigned. And there is a couple things actually in here. If you can switch it to assigned to name session as well.
Yep.
And that should work just fine. So I'll do NPS name session. And then I think maybe name session is not I think it's assigned to guest is what we want to do. The assignment, when you switch it to just assigned, you get this assignment setup, right, which will let you basically run a start flow on here. And if you make it private and you just go ahead and just start editing it, you'll see in the data explorer here, you'll have the assignment object right here. And then you'll have the assignment URL in here. Yeah, URL. So you can do something like that, where basically you just put the URL into the email body when you send it off, and then they can click it. And if it's assigned to a guest or assigned to a name session, it should work just fine.
Okay, very good.
Cool. Yeah,
right.
But it is a security risk. I did want to make sure that you understand that anyone can just go ahead and click that link and then interact with the system. So make sure if you do set up the name session that the account that name session is attached to has very little it can actually do. I would just give it access to just that flow or something like that, right?
Okay.
So, cool.
Right. Very good. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, no problem. Anything else?
Nope, not for today.
Okay, cool. Cool. Does anybody else on the call have any questions or any things they want to look at?
Hello, Josh. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, I had actually a similar question, the one that you just reviewed. So, for example, if we do want external people to have access to our system, but we just want them to like approve or reject the form, would they be able to do that? Like if I send it to like if they're not in our team, like I know in decisions like the approvals only go to the people who are like in our team. So if I have somebody just like random Gmail, will they be able to get a link and approve the form too?
They would be able to if you assign them as a guest. If you assign the assignment to a guest. Yeah, that would be perfectly fine. A couple of other ways, like we've done it for users in the past, is they will make up a complete separate flow that interacts with the main flow and pushes it along. So let's say you have an assignment. I'll go ahead and share my screen again. Let's say you have an assignment in here. It is assigned to, I'll just assign it to admin. Decisions, I'll just give it random name, random action right here. Just put a form together really quick. Okay, cool. Now, if I were to make the assignment, let me just go down and get something really quick. I'm going to set up an action outcome for this assignment. So the outcome is going to be approved. That's good. Start flow. Okay, cool. This will work like a normal assignment, right? It'll have a pop-up. I can kind of complete it right from there. I can hit button to approve it, something like that. But there's different ways of interacting with the assignment that's that can be kind of off the beaten path, not just a regular open up the assignment and complete it. You can actually complete the assignment with a completely separate flow with a step called process form assignment response. It's a step down in the workflow catalog. It's been a while since I've used it, so it might take me a second to find it. Assignment, I think it should be right at the bottom down here. Now this right here, if we think about an assignment, it's actually just a row of data that someone can just interact with it, right? It has a form, but at the end of the day, the form is also just a row of data in representation, right? So I'm going to go ahead and switch this to system. I'm going to get the assignment ID comment. I'm going to leave constant, and file, I'm going to leave constant. And as far as the response, I'm going to make it constant and put approved, right? Now I need the assignment ID to make this work. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and I put maybe I didn't. me get somewhere where I can get the actual assignment ID so I can use it. So I'll go ahead and just put a pop-up. Close this off. Now, if I have this assignment ID and I know the assignment is approved, or the assignment action is approved, like I can just move it forward however I want. So I can kind of interact with the assignment, even though it's, it's in a completely different flow. So right now it's just kind of, it's stuck in the assignment portal. I could interact with the inbox, or I could debug this flow and move it down the approved path, however I want to do it. And so what a lot of people do is that instead of actually providing that user with the assignment, they will send them a link to a flow that they can click approve or reject. And it uses that process form assignment response to move the assignment forward depending on the path that they clicked. Now, that allows the user not to interact directly with the form, but it allows the user to interact with the system and to interact with like a flow or something like that. So you would set up a flow that would present the user with all the information that you need them to see before they hit approve or reject, right? And then they would hit approve or reject as a guest user. And essentially that would hit the process form assignment response, moving that assignment forward. That's a little bit of a safer way to do it, just because you can lock down the user's not actually interacting with the form. They're only interacting with the flow that you deem they're allowed to look at and stuff like that. So does that make sense?
Yes, but my other concern was like, what if they're completely external? Because I know Decisions is like hosted on our specific server. How would they be able to like even be able to run that like all the steps because they're completely external?
They can run these flows. I mean, every single flow in Decisions is just a link at the end of the day. So if I go ahead and just create a new assignment, and now I got a new ID that I want to use. Let's see if it's actually, yep, okay. I got a new ID, and then I have this flow. Let's say I just want to move it to, I want to interact with this flow as a just a URL.
So just to confirm, every single time I have to add a new ID, or will it like automatically be?
Well, if you would design your flow to basically put the ID into the URL so they can hit it, you wouldn't have to do this whole manual process, right?
Gotcha.
So then I could come in here and I can actually integrate directly with this flow, because every single flow is essentially a URL that you have access to, right? So this is complete assignment. Let's see. Integration. This is going to look much different in newer versions. I'm on a pretty old version. I'm going to just do login. I'm going to do service ID and perfect. And it's going to give me a URL directly that I can hit. And so with this, if I want to hit, if anyone wants to hit this URL, I mean, you could probably hit this URL if it wasn't localhost, right? I can call this or click on this wherever I want to, right? And have complete access to it to be able to run that flow. I totally copied over my assignment ID, but it'll run a decisions flow essentially. Does that make sense? I can make it.
Yes,
so can,
but,
yeah.
But it can't be on localhost. It has to be.
Yeah, it can't be localhost because localhost is just local to your computer.
Okay.
So, but as long as your server is available, can be accessed off of like your network, right? And yeah, then anyone can kind of access that URL that they're trying to click.
Gotcha. And is it okay if I ask one more real quick question?
Please, yeah.
So you know how like we have dev and prod, and in dev, it's on the top, like how the tabs are. It just says Decision Studio for dev and prod. And sometimes it's just really confusing to know the difference between what is prod and dev, and I'd be making changes in prod when I'm supposed to be not.
Ooh,
So
yeah,
is there any way to like change it or color code it or something? Because I tried and
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So there's going to be your portal settings down here, and I think it's just nothing at the top, maybe. But there's a lot of things that can be changed down here in your portal settings and stuff that can be pretty good to know. So come down here, it should say decisions. Yeah. Decision slogan text. It might be in studio settings. Yeah, you can change a lot of the stuff about this in your portal settings or your studio settings to be able to make it different, make it stand out so that it doesn't say studio slogan.
oh wow, that is amazing.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Appreciate
No
it.
worries. Yeah, no worries. Happy to help. Cool. Does anyone else have any questions they'd like to ask? Okay. If not, I can kind of just talk about something, on our product that I think is super helpful. On professional services, we write a lot of processes that have email steps, right? Where we're going to send an email, to somebody who needs to receive one, send an email for an assignment, send an email for notification. There's a bunch of reasons why you would want to send an email out of decisions. And I wanted to talk briefly about how best to set this up so that you have like good control over the emails that are leaving your server, and how if you have to make a change to something, it's better to kind of design it this way so that the change is a little easier. I used to sit behind this guy on the QA team, and he had a piece of paper above his desk that said, "If the change is hard, make the change easy, then make the change." And so what you want to do is you kind of want to design your system so that making a change is very, very easy. And there's a really good way you can do it with emails that can be very helpful. So what I like to do is if I have a system that is sending an email, if I have a system that I know I'm going to want to send emails with, I typically will make a send email server level step flow. And this is very, very simple. All it's going to do is have the send email step inside of it. Now you can do a couple other things with this, but for the most part, this is just your server level send email step. Instead of using the send email step, you would use this send email flow over and over in your flow so that every time an email is sent from your system, you know the exact flow that it's coming from. So I would make this flow and put a send email step and just add all of the things that would be typed into the step as an input to the flow. So you go to the flow, you go to all the inputs, and you just set up like 2. High priority, I'm not going to use, but maybe if you wanted to, you can include it. It's up to you, but I'm just going to give the base level subject, body, to and from. So select from flow. Now, send email steps, at the end of the day, they're actually an API call to a send email server. Decisions is the platform and not also an SMTP server. So those things are very independent from one another, right? Decision server is a web-based application. The SMTP server strictly sends emails. So while yes, they can talk, they're not the same system. So we need to kind of account for that, right? Now, how I typically do that is I will go down to the send email step and I want to add an outcome for the exception. Now, this is very helpful for when you're writing like very long lasting flows or things that are, that you don't want your process to break because an email wasn't sent, right? It would be pretty bad if you had this process that was very, very long, and one day the SMTP server breaks and you're left without, one email being sent. That that could ruin your flow, right? So we want to account for that by putting the on exception step on the send email, step whenever you use it. But now I have this server level send email step that I can use within any flow, right? And so now if I'm creating a process for let's just say enrollment. If I'm creating an enrollment process and I have to send an email, I can go, I can just add send email step server level, and just all my body from subject to is all in the same place. This can be very helpful when it comes to long-term maintenance of your flow. I had this one customer one time who they had this very long process. It lasted over 6 months. It was one singular flow that went from start to finish in 6 months. It had a lot of assignments in it, a lot of places where it would stall and wait and pause and stuff like that. So what we decided to do as a PS team was basically put the send email step in its own subflow and make sure the on exception was going on, because it was a long process, right? I would hate for a send email step to break 6 months worth of project or worth of process, right? So we did that and we put it onto a subflow, and we were very happy, and the customer was very happy with that as well. Everything was working fine. And then a requirement change, probably like 2 months down the road, said, would you mind if we put something on it where certain users won't receive emails? And so they wanted to basically change the way we send emails as a system. So every time we were to hit a send email step, instead of just sending it, we had to confirm whether or not that user was set up to receive emails. Which, if we would have just put send email steps all over the place, it would have taken so long for me to go back and find every send email step in the process and change it to adhere to this new requirement. But because we wrapped it in a subflow, that change took 10 minutes. So it could be the difference between 10 minutes worth of work versus 2 weeks worth of development, right? We were 2 months into this development project, and so to go back and make that big of a change would have taken a long time. But because of the way we designed it, and because we wrapped that send email step in a subflow, it took us 10 minutes. So there's very easy things you can do while you're in the development process, while you're developing, to make sure that if an issue arises or if requirements change, that you can better adjust them. And this one's a very easy one to do. So any questions on this or anything relating to stuff like this? Cool. Well, feel free to send me an email on this if you want to hear more about like why we do this and what circumstances this can help you with. My email is josh@decisions.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions and talk about it as long as you want. So thank you for attending this Lunch and Learn, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.